Was Severus Snape really a great man? Snape was long considered to be a classic bully until a plot twist in Deathly Hallows I don't think anyone saw coming. Loads of people think that Snape redeemed himself by being this double agent for Harry, and I'm definitely not saying that he wasn't brave or really selfless, as he was for doing this for so many years. I'm just hesitant on calling Snape a great man because of this. I don't doubt that he was brave, but was he great? Harry was so astonished and grateful for what he witnessed at the Pensieve that he named his son after Snape.
Albus Severus Potter.
Even though I think there are other people who better looked out for Harry over the years. Although Snape is widely revered, I don't believe that he can be called a great man. He was a man who had many flaws, as we all do, but he seemed to really revel in it sometimes. So, without further ado, let's dive into the magical world to look at some examples demonstrating that Severus Snape was in fact not a great man. Shall we?
Yeah, alright.
Number 1. Snape as a teacher. I think the most obvious example is how Snape treated those around, or rather beneath him, like the Hogwarts students. Most noticeably among those students is how poorly he treated Neville.
Why is it always me?
Neville was absolutely terrified of Snape throughout his years at Hogwarts. I understand everyone has a fear of teachers when they're younger at school, but this takes it to new levels. I mean, Neville was so petrified of Snape that Snape was his worst fear.
Ridiculous!
Neville's parents were in St. Mungo's who were being tortured by Bellatrix to the point of insanity, which I'm sure Snape is aware of. He's a timid, clumsy boy, yet Snape bullies him so much that his worst fear in the whole world is Snape. Snape even picks on Neville's toad, Trevor, threatening to poison him if Neville doesn't achieve a perfect shrinking solution. Snape is also very cruel to Hermione. He was obviously just passionate and eager to learn, but he puts her down constantly in front of the whole class.
Are you incapable of restraining yourself, or do you take pride in being an insufferable know-it-all?
As someone who is picked on in school, he doesn't care about humiliating the students just the same.
Right, who wants to see me take off Snivelly's trousers?
One instance of his bullying is shown in the Goblet of Fire as he reads Rita Skeeter's article aloud in class about the fake relationship between Hermione and Harry, harassing and embarrassing them both. He then goes on to provoke Harry in private, claiming he's big-headed and calling him a nasty little boy who considers rules to be beneath him.
Clearly, fame isn't everything.
Number 2. Snape's obvious and over-the-top hatred of Harry. Snape has an obvious and extremely public hatred of Harry, worsening the quality of his school life. I don't see why this is necessary for his double agent act. I see why you need to see Snape as horrible to question his loyalty to Dumbledore, but the extent of the abuse directed towards Harry is completely unnecessary. Snape is constantly deducting large amounts of points from Harry for seemingly petty reasons, resulting in many arduous attentions like cleaning bedpans without magic, and he even tries to get Harry expelled in the Chamber of Secrets for crashing into the Whomping Willow. Snape also actively puts Harry's life in danger by stopping occlumency lessons with him in the Order of the Phoenix. Snape repeatedly invades Harry's mind and privacy, clearly reveling in the angst it causes him, mocking his precious memories.
Feeling sentimental.
I'm not saying Harry doesn't deserve some of Snape's anger, as he can be cheeky and disrespectful, but Snape is clearly out for Harry in particular. This obviously has to do with Harry's father, James, but the lengths that Snape goes to seek Harry out and humiliate him or patronise him really shows his true nasty character, and frankly, his strange dissatisfaction that Harry is not more like the woman he loves, Lily. Considering he loves Harry's mother and is risking his life for Harry, Snape is horrible to him, and he speaks awfully about his deceased father, knowing it will upset him.
You're just like your father. Lazy, arrogant.
Your father was a swine.
This brings us to our third and final point, Snape and his inability to accept the past. I want to emphasise here I understand why Snape wants to avenge Lily and I applaud his bravery. I'm focusing more on the bitterness the past has on his present life and his mindset. Snape obviously has an incredibly unhealthy obsession with Lily Evans. Obviously, unrequited love is a popular backstory for vengeance, but even setting aside that Snape was unpleasant before Lily, taking this vengeance into his adulthood and taking out on Lily's child makes me question the depth of his love. It doesn't seem like a very pure intentioned love or that he brought much light to Lily's life. Even before she died, he was the one that distanced himself. He even called her a mudblood, and during school and after, it seemed like he was heading towards a dark path as he was surrounded by Death Eaters. Snape isn't helping Harry because morally he believes it's the right thing to do in the grand scheme of good versus evil. And I don't think if Lily had died he would have left Voldemort's side. Again, Snape's actions were undoubtedly brave, but that all-powerful love, the kind of love that Lily saved Harry with, I don't see Snape as capable of it. It didn't really change him as a person. Snape literally steps over James's dead body and ignores Harry to see Lily, and obviously this moment is traumatic, but it shows his little humanity and compassion for anyone that isn't Lily, and I think this attitude largely stays with him until his death. Considering how he can't let go of his past, I think it's pretty rich of him to say that Harry is whiny.
Kind, sentimental children, forever whining about how bitterly unfair your lives have been.
Snape's bitter nature at school being sustained for years is even seen in The Prisoner of Azkaban, illustrated by his attitude towards trying to out Lupin as a werewolf, as he knows the stigma around it will lead him to leaving Hogwarts.
Which one of you can tell me the difference between an animagus and a werewolf? No one. How disappointing.
Snape's bitterness is also depicted when he sees Sirius again. His reluctance to listen to any of Sirius's or Harry's side of the story in the Shrieking Shack and desire to have Sirius's soul kissed by the Dementors shows the depths of his intense resentment and inability to accept the past.
I could do it, you know. But why deny the Dementors? They're so longing to see you.
I don't deny Severus Snape was a brave man. He had to be to have performed such a great double agent act to the Dark Lord. There is no doubt he risked his life, and there are moments you can clearly see him protect Harry. I don't believe he did it for the greater good. I don't believe he did it because he was a changed man and saw the difference between right and wrong, and if Lily hadn't died, I believe he would have been Voldemort's real right-hand man. He wasn't a great man. He doesn't deserve to be heralded as such in the Harry Potter fandom. His actions are not forgiven just because he was secretly helping Harry. He took it way too far too many times and showed his true self. Snape might have saved Harry's life, but he didn't care or wish to improve the quality of it during the time he knew him. Like Ron said in Order of the Phoenix, just because he's on our side doesn't mean he isn't a git.